Welcome to the Kubeflow community meeting for October 29th, 2024. This meeting is being recorded. It is governed by the CNCF Code of Conduct, and we have an agenda that we follow here today. First thing that we tend to talk about is the release update. And we have the release team representatives. I don't know. I think we have Ricardo. Is anyone else here from the release team, or is it you, Ricardo?
I can see there's myself. If we can count as Mateo and Valentina, they're also representing the release team meeting here.
Fantastic.
Hello, everyone.
Hey, Valentina. All right, so quick updates about the releases. Yesterday we officially released 191, our first patch release for Kubeflow 1.9. Such changes include some component upgrades like KIP 230, training operator 191, mod directory, I guess it's 0 to 9. And yeah, I think those are the biggest changes so far. One other big thing about 191 is that we finally fixed some issues around the new authentication mechanism, and now it's available for everyone to start with. This is the release page for 191, and let us know if you have any issues with 191, so we can consider if there's a need for a second patch release. We expect that we don't need another one, but anyways, feel free to try it out and let us know how that new patch release looks like. Yes, that's it. Oh, yeah. Thanks for pointing that out, Josh. KServe 0.13.1 is also included in 1.1. For Kubeflow 1.10, it's pretty much development phase, which has just started. While we're still in the development phase, trying to mentor the volunteers for shadowing the release manager role. So with that, my proposal is to do some rotation between them to host the release team meetings. Yesterday we had our first volunteer to host the meeting, Julius, who did it greatly. So thank you, Julius, for hosting the meeting yesterday. And for the next ones, I'll come up with new volunteers for hosting the meetings so they can train themselves or prepare themselves for future releases to become the release manager. This is pretty much it. If you want to follow up any updates across the working groups, there's a board under the Kubeflow org where you can take a look. Just go on the GitHub/Kubeflow/projects73, and you can take a look at all of the working groups progress. And that's pretty much it. Floor is open for any questions or comments about 1.10 or 1.1.
I just really want to warn, if you're a distribution owner, please do not just randomly update to 191. You will probably break your auth. You need to be very careful because the auth thing has changed dramatically. Not that a lot of distributions couldn't update because they didn't work on the old auth for 1.9.0 didn't work on their distribution of Kubernetes because of the way OIDC stuff worked. But I just want to warn people that there's a lot of changes there. So, and having extra Istio resources will break it. So like if you have extauth, that's the wrong word, authorization policies that were for older versions or envoy filters, you might need to delete them, which again is part of the issue with how upgrading works if you don't have some kind of tracking of what was previously applied for your distribution. Because you now need to delete resources for the auth to work properly at all. I just wanted to highlight that to people. there's like look at the specific PR to see what changed. It is a bit confusing, but sometimes the best way is just to look at the rendered diff of them, just like kubectl template. Kubectl is the wrong word. Customized template, the whole thing, and to see what changed.
Awesome. Any other questions?
So we are in about week 3 of the development?
I think so.
And week 6 is the first check-in, which is kind of before the holidays start, all that good stuff. It seemed as though, a few of the working groups are making pretty good progress on their list of PRs. But, at least in terms of numbers, who knows if in terms of size, right? But go ahead.
Yeah, at least for the majority of the working group, we have a clear either milestone or a tracker issue for their work towards 110. What I've been asking the working group liaisons is to keep updating those issues, especially if there are any potential blockers for their respective working groups that could not achieve 100% of development done for feature freeze. So this is one of the things that I've been telling to all of the liaisons. So yeah, I'm in contact with them to let me know of any things that could block us for feature freeze on January 20th, 2025.
Yeah. So I guess this is a shout out to the end users out there. If there are particular issues or PRs that need to be addressed, this is the time to start to highlight them and put your comments on those PRs, join the working group meetings, escalate those up into the roadmap, into the work plan. It's still early enough where if you start to raise your hand and say, hey, this is an issue and I need it to be taken care of, you can give the working groups enough time to fit that into the schedule. So again, reach out to all the end users out there. If you have things that you're needing or wanting, now's the time to get engaged before the holidays start, as we're still early in the beginning of the development of the release.
Yeah, totally agree on that, Josh.
I attended the model registry meeting yesterday. Seems like they have good momentum. Is there anything from the model registry? Do we have that on the calendar or on the agenda? Any update from them? No.
Hey Josh, Model Registry. Sorry, Matteo from the registry here.
Yeah.
Just quickly, just a couple of updates. We are indeed sort of like discussing with the team that is looking into the UI, because this is one of the main team for Model Registry in Kubeflow 1.10, but for as well as progress in the integration with other components or adds-on. Specifically, we had sharing on some of the progress that we made with defined custom store initializer focus serve that is integrated. The contributor is now working on a website update where we store our documentation. I just want to call out again, the great demos and work that all the contributors are doing there. I just invite everybody to not only to join the meeting, if they can, as every bi-weekly just after the release meeting, but in case we are maintaining, of course, the recording on the Kubeflow community YouTube channel, so they can catch it up from there. And indeed, I think, as you said, it's like we have good momentum on all the activities. I didn't enter any item here because We are just progressing on the roadmap that we've done. We've also tagging along with Milos, who is our liaisons group for the release team, and everything is proceeding as Ricardo's mentioned. Thank you.
Yeah, I heard some things, and again, I don't want to get too diverted here, but I think it's important to highlight some of because the model registry has been such a request, I want to make sure that the end users understand that there's quite a bit of development being put into that. And I heard a couple things yesterday about notebooks and KFP and the UI and SDK. It seemed as though there were some advanced workflows being considered.
Yeah, so about, I think that you are referring to some of the experiment that Eder has also been, I think that it was also shown here in some of the past Kubeflow community meetings. My suggestion would be to say for everyone to check out the recording, and especially if they are a user and they like what they see there in the recording, please feel free to join us, in the CNCF Slack channel, in the, the bi-weekly meetings, or just log a GitHub issue to have a conversation about that, if they have any comment about those type of workflows.
Yeah, we're really hoping that the addition of the model registry simplifies workflows and increases productivity by reducing the need to cross-reference information in various places. I mean, I assume this is one of the better benefits that folks will see. So the more that we can expose the right information, the better off the utility of the deliveries are going to be. So the end users, please try to help on explaining to the model registry team what information needs to be exposed and how in some of those workflows that they're discussing. And again, that team, Matteo, what was yesterday, right? And you'll have another one in about 2 weeks?
Correct. Every bi-weekly we meet just after the release meeting. The calendar is in the Kubeflow website, along with all the other calendars invitation.
Fantastic. All right, thanks for that. And I know a lot of the other working groups have been doing tremendous amount of work. I was listening to the Notebooks working group meeting, and there's always a ton of topics there that seem to be of relevance and interest to a lot of folks. So please try to join in to the working group meetings, and especially those that there's a lot of activity going on. I think that'll be valuable for the end users to voice their opinions. Let's perhaps talk about the main agenda at this point, unless there's any other questions on the release. All right, steering committee election. I didn't put this one.
I just added this one
here.
here because I saw it on the old agenda and I just wanted an update for what the heck's going on.
Right. So there was quite a bit of discussion in the steering committee about the upcoming election. We definitely want to make sure that the way that the community is structured makes sense for folks going forward. My kind of belief, this is just one person's belief, is that the more people that we can kind of move through the steering committee, the more voices we have, the more engaged people will be. So I'm glad to have seats open up. I know James Wu and myself both see this as an exciting way to bring in new voices, new energy into the steering committee. And I think it's going to be a real valuable addition as we get folks kind of engaged there. So I don't know if there's any particular questions about the steering committee election. I know there's some prep work that's being done by the steering committee and as well as the election team. But are there any particular questions about the upcoming election besides, you can see the election timeline? I think nominations start.
Is this still correct, this timeline? I just copied it from a previous meeting.
I don't see any reason why it wouldn't be. I think everything that I have heard up until this point should be along those lines. I don't see Amber here. Andre's been in some of those conversations, but Andre, this timeline still seems fine to me. I don't know if you know any different.
Yeah, I think Amber just looking for sending the announcement to the Kubeflow discuss.
Cool.
All right, and we should probably talk about what at some point what that being on the steering committee, your time commitment and that type of thing that comes involved in responsibilities. But we can do that as we get a little bit closer. All right, any other questions there? Let's move on to Notebooks 2.0.
I just wanted to always be talking about it because it means people hear about it. We are still working on it. There is work on the front end UI now happening from Red Hat. Well, a couple of people from Red Hat. I don't think it's officially from Red Hat. The pieces that still need work are still the front end. Obviously, a lot of design stuff there needs to go on. So if you've got React or JavaScript or front end experience, please reach out to me on Slack directly. If you have Go experience, we're still writing the REST API for it. We've written most of the controller, but that's pretty much done. But the backend, which is a Go REST API, still needs to interact with Kubernetes. It still needs to be finished. So if you happen to have experience on that, please reach out. And then secondarily, we've also been working on AMD Notebook. I'll let people ask questions in a second, but if you've got them, so hold them. We're also working on getting AMD, which is ROCm, GPU support images officially in Kubeflow notebooks. The issue being that it seems like there is, I don't know how this has happened, but there seems to be an issue with the AMD, the way AMD's GPUs are used on Kubernetes, which prevents us building a generic image, which is that they don't, there's so many issues layered on top of each other, but effectively the issue is a permission issue, which is that the host's device group GID owner does not seem to be a static number like it is on other vendors. It's owned by the render group, and that doesn't seem to have a static GID. Anyway, so then we uncovered an issue with Docker and container runtimes themselves, and so we're working on that. But if you happen to either know a solution to that, which we can share with both AMD and the rest of the world, that'd be great. I will list, I'll link the issue there if people want to follow it. But again, the goal is really just to be supporting of all of the vendors out of the box. But we've got Intel kind of, we have NVIDIA obviously, and then AMD would be great too. So yeah, if you have AMD GPUs to test as well, please reach out to me. We've got a couple from CERN and stuff, but if you've got more, then please tell me.
Okay, that's great. And Matthew, not to go over too many times, I'm gonna put you on the spot here real quick. One or two themes that will be coming in Notebooks 2.0, just to remind the team of the value of 2.0 and what, the big one or two deliveries that will be different from the current Notebooks 1.0.
Yeah, so the main difference is that, so like I'll just link it here as well, which is Notebooks 2.0 tracking. There is just an issue here, but this explains it. But effectively, the principle is that rather than wrapping a pod, it's like a bunch of FAQs here. But if you rather than the admin of the cluster, the end goal is still the same: to allow your users to run IDEs like Jupyter, VS Code, or anything else you might have that runs in a web browser on your Kubernetes cluster with access to both its resources, networking, or all the other things, and then permission control it with Kubeflow's access control. That's still the goal, but the way we're doing it is much better. Rather than having users have to think about pods and specs of pods, you can instead define these templates, which then feel more like VM templates for the end user. So when they're spawning a new notebook, they first select the kind of notebook, which you define, but we provide some pre-built ones for Jupyter and other ones. And then once they've selected a kind from the list of available images and pod templates, you can pick them. So for an image template, it might just be a version of PyTorch. And then for a pod config, it might be, you know, I want 3 GPUs and 64 cores and other things like that. And so rather than the user having to think about those pod requests that would be required to do that, they just select it from a drop-down box. And this will be a lot easier to understand once we have the visual kind of mock-ups, not mock-ups, like the first version, I guess. But that, and within that, we've just done a lot of improvements. So effectively, the admin now has a lot more control, but also it's just solving a huge problem, which is that spawning things on Kubernetes can be complicated and it's very environment specific. And so the admin is the best person to define these available configs. You know, you don't want to let a person spawn a non-GPU image on a GPU node, for example.
So these t-shirt sizes make it easier for the admin to serve up or to provide the end users things that are going to work.
Yeah, like
and
you know,
not require the end users to get down into the nitty-gritty of the Kubernetes to design things that may or may not work.
Yeah, and then secondarily, we've also given people a lot of tools to make that easier when you're administrating. So like if your company requires image updates every now and again, you don't want to interrupt all of your users, but you do want to force them onto new versions if that's a requirement for your company, or just because you want to stop supporting old versions of PyTorch or something. So we've got a feature called redirecting, which allows you to say this version of this image should be when possible updated to this version, and then the user is prompted every single time they restart their notebook to do that, and it tells them what will happen because you can write a little note to your users, because you can obviously have anything in a user. There's also just lots of other quality of life stuff, like we have tags now for images, so you can define a matrix of, you know, Python and PyTorch and CUDA versions, and then, you know, rather than just a drop-down list with hundreds of options, you can, you know, filter by a grid of things like that. And then I'll hint at the 2.1 kind of features that we're looking at, and I'm interested to hear people's feedback, is the future is not just pods. So my vision has always been that you're still running Kubernetes wherever you're running it with Kubeflow notebooks running it, but I want to be able to spawn real VMs on KubeVirt clusters that are running anywhere. It could be on-prem with your GPUs, it could be on another cloud vendor, and we can still bridge you into the network. And I really think that's going to change the way people do IDE spawning, or just like notebooks for data science and AI. But obviously pods are still the first feature and will still be supported always on the cluster of notebooks. But VM-based stuff is always going to be cool. I'd love to see KubeVirt become the standard API of VM spawning on the cloud, just like Kubernetes has become the standard container way.
Okay, well, there is a lot there. I think all this resource selection, security, and efficiency improvements, as well as the last topics that you just covered, all sound like great advantages. And we look forward to Notebooks 2.0. Again, not currently. Do you think we're going to get some of this for a alpha beta in 1.10?
That really depends on contributions from people. So if you want to make sure that happens, please join. And again, it's people who have experience with Go and Kube, like controllers. Go for like REST APIs, so like this is controller, and then backend, and then front end is React. Just JS. Anyway,
all right.
So,
well,
yeah.
this is a great way to get some experience or provide your expertise into this important new project. which I think almost 80% of Kubeflow users typically have used. So it's a great opportunity. Thank you, Matthew.
Cool. Yeah, it's been the long-term vision of what as soon as I started working with Kubeflow notebooks, is what I wanted, but it turns out to be complicated to build, but as they do. Anyway, thanks everyone.
All right, so next we have, can someone unarchive kubeflow.github?
So first off, I just split the meeting up into things that don't really apply to everyone.
Yeah.
But then also, Josh, is this arena thing? Do you want to quickly just see what happens there, or do you want me to put that in this other one?
Well, let's ask about Arena. Is there anyone here that can give us an update on Arena?
There was a community issue that had the maintainers go back and forth. Let me just check where it is. That's the repo itself. I couldn't see any issues on there discussing it, but I think there's one on the Kubeflow community repo.
Okay.
Okay.
So we need to follow up and find out what Arena's plans with our community is, right? It's like, what are you guys doing?
So there was a discussion. Yeah, there was a very brief discussion on this repo, but yeah, I don't know what's going on there. Okay. Cool.
I can give an update if you want to.
Okay.
Yeah, so I didn't have much conversation with them, but as far as I know, there are active development there. They recently support Spark jobs as part of this CLI. I think they kind of like have a intent to start a new working group, CLI. But I don't know like what their direction there.
So are they going to become an official component, or are they going to make their own org? That's kind of the decision I thought they had to make.
I think they want to stay within Kubeflow. I know that Spark operator community right now they already supporting Spark jobs within Arena.
We're Spark operator.
Yes.
I mean, sure. I mean, that's fine, but projects can integrate with Kubeflow even with outside of Kubeflow. It's more just like from a governance perspective, do we want them and are we able to support them and various other things.
Yeah, Arena been there from 2018, right? July. So we can talk about it. They can formalize working group if they have enough community members. But I think we just need to ask them to join this call.
Because they definitely need a working group. That's kind of what I'm saying. And if they don't have a working group, they need to leave or they need to archive.
Yeah, they want to have a new working group called CLI.
Okay. CLI is a bit of a weird name for a working group, but okay. Because what do we want it as a project as well? Like most people using Kubeflow are not using this, right? That's my other concern. Is this what we're recommending?
How do you know this, Matthew?
It just never comes up in the surveys or anything like that.
Yeah, because we didn't ask users, right?
That's true, but I mean, just it seems unlikely considering most people in Kubeflow aren't aware of it. And what I'm saying is this is a slightly opinionated tooling. That's all I'm trying to say. And so, do we want to present this as the official way to use Kubeflow or not? That's kind of what I'm saying.
Yeah, I think we just need to ask those maintainers to attend this call. Just give us maybe a demo. What is the status there? And then maybe we can see what we can
It might not
do
be possible because they're in China mostly, I believe, right? The time zones may not be compatible.
Well, maybe they can record something.
Anyway, I just wanted to figure out what's going on there because it's the last kind of remaining unworking grouped component.
Okay, good. Well, we've made great progress on trimming down, pruning out. That's another one that does need to be a decision made on. They usually take a little while. So thank you, Matthew, for bringing this up. We do need to follow up on that and find out what their intentions are.
Cool. So what I just did is, Josh, I've tried to split it off into things that really will spiral out into making the meeting longer, but are not related to what the non-leads of the community need to hear about. They can be here if they want to be, but I've just tried to put those things into this section. Is that,
okay.
Is there anything else people want to talk about that affects the whole community? New features, new releases, things like that before we move on to these other topics?
I have one ask for pipelines, but I don't know, maybe we could do it after your discussion.
Well, I mean, the pipelines people sometimes have to leave early, so is it important?
No, it's just quickly. So I know that you recently updated the pro config to include this label for CI check. Like I don't know if you have anyone here on the call, but I think my question is, I think it's great. Basically, this allows don't accidentally merge PRs from non-members of Kubeflow, and actually check that all of the GitHub actions have been passed successfully before merging the PR. I think my question is like, do we want to apply this for the all Kubeflow repos? Because I think like this is the great addition to include. Because the problem is right now, if we don't have this check, if someone opened the PR and if we don't click run the GitHub actions, and if we leave LGTM and approve, the PR will be merged without checking the CI.
So this is already on the repo. I'm just looking at the config further down on that PR. I think the reason it doesn't get checked is because I think I looked into this a while ago. It's because the bot has admin on all of the repos, and that's fine, and it needs that, but it means that it doesn't actually get blocked by the don't merge restrictions. Because like I can see that it says orgs, the exact same thing. On the PR, they've explicitly listed Kubeflow pipelines, but it lists the whole Kubeflow org, which affects every repo in the org.
Okay, do we have anyone here on the call from the pipelines team?
Did it actually work, is what we're saying.
Yes, it works.
I think the person who's working on the CI pass labels, Albert and Bunny, I guess.
Yeah, I think so, yep.
Yeah.
Sorry, I
Dave,
just
you-
joined.
Hey,
Could you
Vani, can you hear us?
Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear us?
Yeah,
Can
yeah,
you
yeah.
hear- Okay. Could you repeat the question? I just joined a little.
So are you working on the fix to the blocking of merging pull requests that don't have that have block labels on them?
Yes.
So because I see in the configs that the whole org had those configs applied previously, but you've made a new PR in the info, which makes it for Kubeflow pipelines specifically. Was that necessary to make it work, or?
We were not sure whether we can apply for the entire Kubeflow repo, so we just specified Kubeflow pipelines. If there is no harm in specifying it for entire Kubeflow repo, we can do that as well.
I think it's necessary to have it only for pipelines right now. So the problem is, if you don't have this GitHub action that's Vani you implemented, this is just not going to work. This GitHub action that you created basically applied this label when all of the GitHub actions succeeded, right?
No.
Yeah,
Wait,
that's
CI
right.
passed. Oh, you're saying CI passed.
Yes, CI pass
Yeah.
and talk about this label.
I see. So it is different. Yeah. Okay. So what creates that label? Because I don't see that label usually.
It's a
Yeah,
customized. Yeah, go ahead, Vani.
So we recently added it. So any new PRs, I think from last week, you should be able to see that label if all the CI checks gets passed on that particular PR.
And what is applying that label?
There's a workflow which gets triggered for every PR that we create for KFP repo, and it waits until all the CI checks gets passed, and it will evaluate the status of all the CI checks, and then if everything is fine, it adds a label. There's another workflow which gets triggered and adds this label.
There is one issue with that, which is sometimes you need to be able to merge things that are that have failing tests.
Okay, so I thought this issue got resolved once we moved all the GitHub action, all the tests to GitHub actions.
No, it's
Helper
not
to
that. No. What I mean is like sometimes it's just there's reasons you might want to merge a pull request with failing tests.
Not for pipelines. In pipelines, we're not doing that. If I see some PRs getting merged, but those PRs are merged in the GitHub user interface. So someone who has writing privileges can use the GitHub interface.
it's best if people don't do that, but yeah.
I agree.
The problem is like even without this check, if some of your CI was failed, you cannot merge the PR until if you don't have the right access. This is the problem. It's only for new members, for which we don't automatically trigger the CI.
Yeah. Like, I guess it's just a question as to how each project wants to do it. I agree that is like the issue is even required checks, the DCO check, for example, is not strictly speaking required, like if someone LGTMs and approves it, it will get merged because the bot can override those permissions. I think we talked about it a while ago as to other potential solutions to that particular problem. But yeah, what are you proposing,
No, it's
Andre?
only for new. Again, I think for us, from training operator side, from creative side, we want to enable it. I think for model registry for Spark, I think it also will be helpful. So what I propose, I don't know if you want to generalize this section, or if your suggestion, Vani, just to copy paste your workflow to the other repos.
So the biggest motivation of sorry, Connie,
Yeah.
just a quick thing. Our main motivation to do those things is that we are trying to work around everything coming from Tide, because this is a Google specific bot. And since we started moving to GitHub Actions and we added the rerun tests for those GitHub Actions, sometimes it didn't work well. And also we wanted to find a way to integrate those GitHub Actions with Tide, which I don't believe we have 100% integration for it, but this is our proposal for having like an alternative solution for Tide integration into pipelines PRs. Okay. So go ahead, Flavie, sorry.
And for your question, Andre, so I'm not sure if you can apply it for entire Kubeflow repo. If everybody confirms that there's no harm in applying the same.
Oh no, please don't apply it to every repo is what I'm saying.
Yeah, that's what we thought. So yeah.
I think my question was different, right? So I'm asking about your workflow, right? I remember previously we've been discussing that we can publish our workflow as a template and then reuse it across different repos, right? Yeah, so my question is like, do we want to just manually copy paste your workflow in each repo, or we can make it common?
Yeah, you can do that, I guess.
Because it's probably specific to each one, and making it depends on how generic they choose to make it, because you'd have to probably make a selector for the kinds of ones that you want to pass to make it more useful for other projects. It's probably not that complicated as well, so.
I think if the workflow doesn't have any specific pipeline specific stuff, I think we could move to another repo so we don't duplicate stuff.
Yeah, this was my question, right? So can we publish the GitHub Actions, right? And then I remember like we have the same problem for what is it? The rerun all, right? That we kind of using some random GitHub, right? So
Yeah, so since like Helbert said, there's no specific thing related to pipelines, so I think it's okay to reuse because pretty much it's generalized.
okay. Yeah, we just need to see like whether if we need like separate repo for every GitHub Actions we want to publish, right? Or we can do this in the one repo, right? Because I don't know like how. Yeah.
I think it can be one repo.
So you can define a GitHub action template anywhere, but it has to be a specific kind of template. It has to be like a callable template, I believe it's called. Honestly, I think it's callable. I think that's the word. And it can be in a folder, or you can just make a step of another GitHub action, which is a JavaScript package. You know what I mean? And that like the normal step in a GitHub action is defined with npm style JavaScript stuff. We can do either one, but it doesn't really matter. But we don't have a common repo right now.
Matthew, by this callable workflow, do you mean an action?
So GitHub Actions has two kinds of reusable workflows. One is called a reusable workflow, which is what I'm talking about, which is one which is like a parameterized workflow that has, a bunch of input parameters, and then it does a full workflow based off those parameters, and another workflow can call that parameter, that workflow from itself. But you can't define any sub-steps with it. Then the other kind is the things that are GitHub work actions, the steps. Each of those is also a package, and so we could also create those, but those are more complicated because they have to be versioned and they have JavaScript code rather than workflow code. But the callable workflow or the reusable workflows, the words you should Google, are just the YAML for GitHub Actions. You know what I mean? They're just a templated workflow file. That's all that is. So we use one in, if you want to see an example, we use one in the Kubeflow repo for building images. So here is an example of the usable workflow. And then there is obviously other way is to create.
Yeah, so I think what will be really helpful, so we need to publish this officially, right? Like in terms of reusing to the different repos. I don't know like how to do it right now in GitHub Actions. We also have a template, but this template they have at the same place where we have a repo, right? The GitHub Action. But can we place in a separate GitHub repo? This is the question, right?
Yes.
And how we can publish them for everyone, right? So this I don't know yet.
The answer is yes. You can put them in the same repo or another repo. You just reference a commit with a hash or a tag.
Okay, that's fine. All right. So anyway, let me maybe move on. So maybe once we have some time, we can just enable it for repos that want to follow this approach and move all the sections to some. Maybe we can create another repo for those, common actions, right? Across Kubeflow and GitHub org. Okay.
In this vein, also, I just copied something we did for a while ago, which was the DCO thing. Like for the repos which don't do this, we currently use a DCO plugin. There is a DCO bot. There's a couple of options we could try and do to solve this. We could either use the DCO plugin with that's part of Prow, or we could yeah, it's a bit complicated. Like prevent, because I want to prevent DCO failing commits as well. Because like, how we talk about your failing stuff, this one's more important because it's like a legal issue otherwise. Because if unsigned commits cause problems. Anyway, and also the cherry picker plugin though, have we figured that out yet?
Yeah, it's working. I think some folks from Google actually did it for us. We just need to verify it.
The cherry picker one?
Yes, they implemented this, service within Pro.
Okay, because cherry picking, it's so useful on other projects, so it would be great to be able to do it.
Yeah, try this out. I know that's Google folks, they did it for us.
Okay, I doubt it was enabled, but it's probably put on the instance. Like it would have to be enabled on the org, Plugins, blunderbuss, yeah, it's not
It's
there.
enabled on the org. So Google just did it inside the Pro itself. So they added another REST API endpoint for cherry picking.
Yeah, so you can confirm if it's there by looking at the list of plugins, not on the K8s one, but we've got our own one. K8s plugins, and then the Kubeflow plugins is this one here under. Anyway, yeah, I'll find that. But anyway, so I just wanted to say that that's another thing we should do. plugins. Okay, cool. So other than that, I really want to get that DNS updates happening. Why? So for the website, I don't know why everyone's taking so long to do it. So, why haven't we enabled the? Why haven't? So like we now know who has access to make the DNS updates. It's hosted on a GCP org, which has been delegated as the DNS authoritative name servers for the Kubeflow website, DNS. Which doesn't, so there's two problems here. One is that the CNCF needs to have backup access to that GCP account, which they are asking for, but we haven't given it to them yet. We gave them view access, not anything else. So what's happening with that first, I guess? Because there's currently two pieces of infrastructure not owned by the CNCF. Okay, well,
So
either way,
what I heard in the steering committee, Andre, keep me on track here, that we are going to provide, Google is going to provide select members access to ability to change this for a period of time. So there's going to be authorization kind of moved from Google to others to be able to make this change.
it's a very basic change. Like literally, I mean, I'm happy to do it. I think that's fine as a temporary solution, but the general solution is still that the CNCF needs to have admin on that GCP account as like a backup.
Okay. Well, I think we just addressed the temporary fix right now, and then we'll talk about the longer.
Well, if you've agreed to do that, can someone give me access maybe so that I can make the updates?
Yeah, I will. We'll follow up on that.
But yeah, just for reference, the CNCF are currently paying the bills for that account, but do not have access to it.
Ricardo, you have a question?
Yeah, I believe mid to longer term, we should find out another place to host the Cube website. Maybe CNCF can help us.
No, so it's not being hosted there. There's some infrastructure Kubernetes stuff running, but that's not related to the website. There's just the DNS authoritative name servers are pointed there.
Okay, but as part of that, I think we need to find ways to not relying on specific vendor infrastructure. If CNCF can provide us, I believe it's better because that way they can help us maintain those resources, and at the same time, it's vendor neutral and everyone can help with configuring or making any changes to our resources.
Yeah, so they're both the Netellify, which is the actual host, and the GCP, I believe, are like paid for by CNCF. The issue is just about maintaining it, who has access to it. As a community, we need to figure that out. Obviously, these are incredibly privileged pieces of infrastructure, both the DNS and the Kubernetes one, which has, calendar management and other things like that. But we can't really move it from GCP is what I'm saying, but we just need to confirm who should have access, which is what they're talking about. Okay. So yeah, as long as that can be fixed on the next day, maybe, then I can make those changes. I only need to be there for like 10 seconds. But long term, or short term, we need to give the CNCF people admin, at least someone admin at the CNCF, so if everyone dies, they can maintain it. Okay. Okay, so the next one is there's one other PR here for the installing Kubeflow one that I made, which I've made it so that all of them are blue now. Do you want to open that, Josh, or are you there?
Hold on. Let me see this one. Okay.
So like they're all the same color now. There's no difference of colors. I've made so that's the old, and then the roll down one more, and that's the new. So it now looks like that. And those things, when you wave over them, show you the hover things, which you roll down, they show you these. And I saw Josh was a bit concerned about the second sentence, but I'd love to get this merged because it helps people a lot. So like, what's your concern, Josh?
Well, the second sentence is here. you may wish to confirm this distribution is still supported by its maintainers. We suggest that this distribution,
Or that's actually, we suggest you confirm.
we suggest you confirm. I don't know. I don't know that it's really necessary. I
So the
mean, you
reason,
have-
yeah.
You have this right here, which is 0 minor versions behind the latest release. Is 1 release, is 2 release, 3 release.
So I could make it, so if you roll up to the first one,
Yeah.
that one I think I like having. This distribution is currently considered up to date because
Right.
my definition of up to date is 1.9 or 1.9.1, either one, you know? So it's clear. But maybe we could have the others which say this distribution is not considered up to date, just for the others. The question of what to do for one version behind as well. But we could just have this, because it gives context. It's like, is that up to date? No. Or yes.
Yeah, I mean, I get your point, and I just. Do you feel that we have to make this distinction or make this explicit?
Well, I mean, it's more just context, right? The purpose of this is to help end users. So what are we trying to say? It's just, like, even that top part, while it gives more context, does not say whether that is up to date, you know, or information. So the other ones are more like, the warning is saying, hey, the second from latest one says, hey, if you're wanting the latest version, please ask that distribution. And then the next ones say, hey, this seems a bit like it's getting quite old now. Maybe you should check. But we can change the wording. I'm fine with changing the wording, but I do want some, at very least, I want the latest one to say this is the latest one. And then I guess we could have the rest say, this is not considered up to date. If you want the newest version of Kubeflow, please reach out to the maintainer. Jace?
I actually, first off, this is awesome that you worked on this. I think this is a big delta between the skulls and kind of the warnings. I love the version info, and if we could just have version info for all of them, I think it'd be amazing. And you could even take out the bottom part. But I do like the letting people know when the release was released, how many it is away from the most recent, and calling out the recent. I think that's educating our users. And I actually really like that. I love the version info.
Yeah, it's really useful. I still think we should have at least, I'm happy to have a slightly different secondary part, but I still think for some people, they just want to read like a 1-sentence summary of what that means, you know? And maybe it could be improved for the all but latest ones.
Yeah, I think if we're going to have a warning, we need to have a policy that we can point to. Like, again, it is where we
Well,
talk
it's
about
just like, is
communities.
it the latest one? That's all. Like, and maybe we make it that, saying, is this the latest version or not?
Yeah. I'm more in tune to that latest one than up to date. I think.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Yeah. Okay. That's what your concern is there. Yeah, I can make the word latest. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I love the info, and I love the date that it was released. I think, again, that's just data for our users, and then that doesn't mean anything. There's nothing wrong with it, right? Maybe there is an LTS support, and we can just say, hey, check with the distribution on support. Now, then again, if there's like a deeper community rule, hey, something's 4 releases behind, we just mentioned that's not community supported. That's fine, but yeah, I like the idea of just giving that information and saying, talk to your distribution about support.
So I guess we could have 2 things in there then. I agree. There's 2 kind of concepts. The first is this distribution is currently using the latest version of Kubeflow. You know what I mean? Or this is not using the latest version. Please reach out to the maintainers for any updates. Like, so what I'm saying is, and then we can have another one, which is before that, which says distributions are supported by their maintainers. You know what I mean? Not, maybe we don't have to say that. It's a bit, we could. say that.
My challenge with this is it's a little bit redundant, right? I mean, if you tell them you're one minor release behind the latest, and then you say this is not the latest release.
So the thing I'm trying to do is prevent people reaching out to like us to say, why isn't this up to date? It's like, well, it's not our job to do that.
Okay, so then
So like what I'm saying is we could just have this distribution is currently considered, well, this maybe not that. We could say this distribution is using the latest version of Kubeflow. And then we could have for the other one saying this distribution is not using the latest version. Please connect with the maintainers to request an update if you want, or something like that.
True, but they always go to the maintainers for anything.
No, they don't. They come to us.
Right. So maybe we just need to have a big, a higher level page at the top of this page that says how this all works. And we don't need
have
these
that
individual
above it. It
things.
literally does say these are maintained by the maintainers, but because people don't read things, and also just because that's kind of a hard concept to understand, because you have to understand conceptually that Kubeflow is more like Kubernetes than like an app.
Right. So maybe we should take some time to think about how to solve that in a more in a different way.
I mean, it's just like I still think we should just put a thing which says like, is this the latest version or not? And then if it's not, please connect with the distribution itself to request an update if you want. Nothing else. You don't have to say any other words, but support it.
I mean, I would say please check with the distribution for their support policy, is more, I think that you're putting a
okay, that's a good word. Yeah, that's a good wording. I like that.
I just would like to get out of the judgment part.
I like that too, Josh. I agree. I think that's
I do
what I
want
was
to start the
chewing on.
sentence with something which I do want to give a carrot to the distributions which update. So I want to have the ones that are actually using the latest one get to say this distribution is using the latest version of Kubeflow. Check with them for their support policy. And then the other ones should say, this, maybe it's just nothing. And maybe it's just, please check with this distribution for its support policy.
Well, right. I mean, in general, you always have, just because it's up to date doesn't mean it's well supported up to date. And just because it's behind doesn't mean it's not supported. People could have an LTS.
Sure, I'm not saying they don't, but and also there's complicated situations for versions sometimes as
Totally.
well. Okay, so if we just make it, would people accept it if it said for the latest one, this distribution is using the latest version of Kubeflow, or you know what I mean, something like that. Latest minor version of Kubeflow, or something to that effect. And then the other ones should say just, or we could just say the words under that, like you're saying, Josh, please, for information about support or something, connect with the maintainers of this distribution.
Yeah, I'd be even cool with Kubeflow 1.8 was initially released on November 1st. Please check with distributions for support details.
Well,
I think that's good information.
As a second paragraph, I think it should still be a second paragraph, but like saying connect with the maintainers to confirm, well, like connect with the maintainers of this distribution to learn about their support policies or something.
For information on their support policy. I mean, yeah, because we're just stating the fact. Here's the date. Here's the version. Talk to distribution.
Yeah, and
this is the latest.
Yeah,
sounds good.
If that's okay, then do people okay with that? Andre, what do you feel about that?
Yeah, I think it's fine. What is the final wording again?
It's just the first paragraph as it currently is, and then the second paragraph.
Can you share your screen?
Can't you see Josh's screen?
No,
yeah, it's shared on my side.
Oh, for some reason. Okay, sorry. Yeah, now I can. Yep.
Yeah. So the first paragraph is going to be the same for all of them. And then the second paragraph will also be the same for all of them, which says, please connect with the maintainers of this distribution to learn about their support policies.
Yeah, I think it's like for details on support, please contact the distribution.
You didn't have additional section for the support. I think we have this somewhere.
That's a separate PR that we need to clean up because that's a big mess as well. But yeah.
Right, if we could link it out. And we could also mention, we could say latest community release.
Right, let me just link. Yeah.
because let's just confirm, like their release and the community release could be different. So I think just saying, hey, the community is at 1.9, because just like even cloud providers, right? They're not running bleeding edge Kubernetes.
Yeah.
Can we just link this community page here?
No, I don't want to put a link within the pop-up. No. And
Why?
also, first off, it's just bad practice, and second off, it's not. I don't want any more things we need to maintain. Like the point is, we link people to their website only.
So this wording, like distribution is currently considered up to date, we're going to remove it, right?
Yeah, so we'll replace that on all of them, so they're all the same, with the sentence, for information about this distribution's support policies, connect with the maintainers, or something.
So we still have the education on the version, how many behind how many
Yeah,
behind
that's
the
the
tip
first
of it.
paragraph.
Yeah. Yep. And then the date.
Why do we need this statement? How many are behind? I mean, can
Because
user
that's
actually
yes,
calculate?
absolutely, that has to be there. I'm not letting that go
Why?
away.
Like,
Because,
I mean, 1.9
because
is the latest.
that's the whole point of this thing.
No,
Well,
can you show the wording again, Matthew, please?
Well, we're just talking about it now, but we just.
Oh, Josh, you're sharing. Sorry, Josh, can you show the wording, like in terms of how many versions are behind?
So that is, I'm not negotiating. That has to be there because
No,
end
but
users
what is
do
the
not
wording?
know what that means otherwise. Because we take 6 months between releases sometimes.
I think the second sentence needs to be as short as possible. Something like, for details on support, please contact the district.
It needs to be more than that. It needs to be because it needs to be about that distribution. It needs to be like for.
I mean,
I like
why,
that
I mean,
sentence wording,
Matthew, I
Josh.
don't really understand why you so like agree with this statement. I mean, the latest one, 1.9, right? 1.8, it's like one minor version behind. It's obvious for everyone, right? How it couldn't be obvious? Like, I don't understand.
Because just because 1.9 may not be on the screen at the time of the release.
No, but wait, like 1.9 is the latest, right?
Yeah, I understand, but users don't know that. That's the whole point of this PR.
They have. Can we? Okay.
Except
But
for you have the date here, Matthew. So it's like.
But the date doesn't. That's not the same thing. The date is when we released it. The latest.
Yeah, but if you're November 2023 and is one minor release behind, then you're going to say, I mean,
That's
naturally, you're going to look for, okay, what happened?
No, Andre's suggesting I remove the one behind.
I mean, remove everything, right?
What?
I mean, I don't understand. Like 1. Can we just put on this page the latest version of Kubeflow is 1.9 at the beginning, and that's it?
No.
Why?
Because it's just not as useful. Like, it's information about this.
I mean, how a user cannot calculate like what is 1.8 to 1.9? I don't understand.
They can, but like it's saying something. Like we're trying to say something here, which is this is just a stated fact, is that this is behind. Please, if they want to update, they can. Maybe they don't.
Yeah, but you think they don't understand that 1.8 is behind 1.9?
No, but they don't. No, but the fact is,
It's
they're going to be
relative.
looking.
I do agree with Matthew on this one, Andrew, that there is a relative, like, how far behind is it, So, I mean, I think if this detail can be delivered, I think it's good detail.
Okay.
I do agree with it, but explain your point, Andre. You're like, it's too much information or it's not relevant?
It's probably not relevant. I mean, we can just say 1.9 and then, for the support, I agree with you. Maybe we should add the statement. But like saying that it's one minor version behind, what is the reason? Like, it's obvious.
Well, let's be explicit. Because AWS is way behind.
Okay.
And most of the users probably are using AWS. And
so let's just remove it.
No, that's a separate. No, I don't want to do that. The reason for that is because I want to be able to. We lose control of the messaging around the distributions if we remove them from here. Like, if people can see the reason. So to answer your question directly, Andre, the reason why it needs to be in here rather than as this is the latest version is because users don't look at the whole page. They just look at this section.
Okay.
And so they won't read the part before it, which says this is the latest version.
And we don't order them by version.
No, they're alphabetically ordered. And even then, the latest version may not be visible on the page because no one might support it yet.
So it'll be like this, AWS 1.7. So if you're an AWS user, boom, you hit error. Oh, it's on 1.7, great. And
they don't know what that means.
Yeah, to Matthew's point, you're like, okay, I'm looking.
Yeah,
at
I mean, I think that's fine for now. I mean, I think I've been
Yeah,
discussing this
how
for like
goes
a very
it?
long time. I mean, my perspective, personal, we should completely remove the version at all here. Like similar to what CNCF is doing for
No,
Kubernetes.
that is not a good
It-
idea. The
but
reason for
Kubernetes
that is
doesn't have
it will
this
cede
different-
control of the messaging around the distributions. There is no incentive for a distribution to do anything with the upstream version if we don't publicly say this is the version that they're on.
No, but I mean, CNCF doesn't do this. Let's be clear, right?
Yeah, and it's a big problem for them.
No, but Kubernetes is like one of the most popular like, software in the world.
Sure,
it's-
but that's not because of their amazing versioning policy.
No, but I don't see any reason, like any problems for users to not
That's
understand. Like,
it's a huge problem for users. The only reason the reason they gave up on doing it is because there's just so many distributions of Kubernetes.
yeah, it's fine. Okay, you know, I think it's a separate discussion. But again, I don't understand why we just don't follow CNCF policy here. Like,
Because it's not a CNCF policy. That's a Kubernetes policy.
I mean,
I think we have fewer distributions. I think we have particular challenges, and I also think that the smaller vendors have been, you know, important contributors. And one of the things the smaller vendors do is keep up to date, and it gives people, you know, reference of why smaller vendors actually add value. And look, I think that keeps the larger vendors on their toes. Those are the reasons, my reasons, Andre. They could be wrong, but that's how I look at it. And you know, it's kind of this fulfilling prophecy that if there isn't any consequence,
Which is what happened on Kubernetes, right? Until they literally started naming and shaming in a different way, which was like very publicly end of lifing things.
but again, okay, you know, mind. I think it's just out of our control. Like distributions do whatever they want to. We kind of like as a neutral community, just let them a way of how users can use Kubeflow, right? But it's up to the distributions to market themselves, and up to the distributions to decide how they
If you
want to
do that,
promote.
you will largely kill Kubeflow because
but
most
we-
distributions do not have sufficient reach to get any notice at all without being on this page.
Kubernetes has the same problem, right? How those
Exactly, and that's
distributions
a huge problem. So what it means is that the only players that can compete are Google and Amazon. There is a massive opportunity in the market for an on-prem Kubernetes that isn't crap, but no one has the incentive to build it because no one would use it.
No, but there are still some key players, there who
They're
selling
not good though. None of them are good.
I mean, they're probably not as popular as like EKS or GKey.
Yeah, it's not even in the
but
same
still they have
universe.
their target group, right? Like even like looking for other distributions, right? Who is like building this on premises, right?
Sure.
There
All I'm
still
saying
exists.
is the world that we live in though is that we're a Kubeflow, and Kubeflow. Our goal should be to promote the distributions which are contributing to Kubeflow, but also that are supporting users to use Kubeflow. And one of the ways that people do that is by keeping up to date with the latest versions of the product.
But this is one of the opinion, right? Another opinion could be like our goal is not to, make distributions the final entity to actually play with Kubeflow, right? Distributions is one of the options, right? To use the to use the components.
Sure.
Right?
But for a lot of users, it will be the best option.
But this is your opinion, Matthew. Like I have
Okay, sure. I'll agree that there could be a difference of opinion, but a lot of people do want a distribution. That's clearly the case. And distributions solve a problem, which is that Kubernetes environments are very diverse and have very different use cases and problems. And people want support for their specific problems.
so we have good differences of opinion. There's nothing wrong with that, but we've been trying to solve this problem. We spent a ton of time on this, right? In the community. We were trying to get this done by the end of this month, right? We were trying to get this PR to a final form, and then it was going to be enacted, be merged, unless people blocked it, right? Unless the distributions formally came and blocked it. or maybe somebody from the steering committee. I think I've given you, and Chase has given you some good feedback. I think we're very close.
So my
But
proposed wording, I've pasted down on the main doc for the second paragraph.
on the main doc, so back
This,
on the
yeah,
main.
not that one.
Sorry, wrong one. Hold on, I'm all messed up. Hold on. Where are we at here?
So, yeah, so I said distributions are supported by their maintainers. Please contact the provider for information on their support policies.
Okay, I'm okay. That's just a little wordy, but fine. If you want to put that on there, in that little box, it seems like it's a lot.
It'll be fine. It'll wrap around.
Okay, I'm okay with that, but I'm not the final. All I'm saying,
So someone's saying, is that an acceptable thing, or does anyone want to propose an alternative to that? Because if no one disagrees, then I'll just make that the thing so we can merge it.
I think you should make it the thing. We'll say this is the final. We'll give people a week to comment on it. I think we said we wanted to do it by the end of the month, but because we now have final language, let's give it one more week for people to comment, and we'll then merge it next week. How's that?
I mean, sure.
I'm not trying to be a blocker. I'm trying to get to a place that's fair to everybody, right?
Sure. Andre, are you okay with that wording?
Yeah, can we send this message to Kubeflow Discuss, Madi? Can you just ask?
No, we're not going to send it to Kubeflow Discuss. Just review it on the PR.
No, I
please.
mean, it's not my or Josh's decision.
No, it's like, no, I'm not doing that. That is a bad idea because it's not relevant to almost everyone on Kubeflow Discuss.
No, but we need to expose those changes to distributions,
Okay,
right?
they're already aware of them. We've talked about it for months.
No, I mean, like, some people don't follow these calls, right?
Sure.
There are like more
But
than
it's not,
1,000
this is
people
not a
who-
bad thing for those distributions. Like,
I mean, it's your opinion, Matthew. It's not like their
Sure,
opinion, right?
but with, like, Kubeflow Discuss, it is not necessary. Like, that's
Why
what I'm
it's not
because
necessary?
Kubeflow Discuss is users mostly.
No, but there are still many distributions who are on Kubeflow Discuss.
There's
I
like
wanna-
6 distributions. You can just reach out to them directly.
I mean, I don't understand why we don't want to be open
Well,
without.
we are. What I'm saying is like it's
No, we
it's a
don't-
matter of targeting the messaging. Like we know who the active distributions are. We can just literally directly ask them.
I mean, I think our decision should be open to the whole, community.
This is open. It's like needless spam on Kubeflow Discuss.
You know what? I think Andre, let's meet in the middle. Perhaps Matthew is. The people that we know are leaders of the distribution should get an message in the PR and say, hey, this is going to be merged unless you give a -1.
Yeah, I don't see I don't see really participation from distributions. If they're not active, why we even listing them, right?
Well, we listen them because we want people to not use them. I know that sounds counterintuitive, but the reason
Again,
is they have such high SEO that if you just type Kubeflow Amazon, you're going to get on their website, not on the Kubeflow one.
I still think we should be open. I still think we should ask community to provide feedback into those
No,
distributions.
that is not going to happen, and it is not a good idea.
I don't see a problem with doing that, but to meet in the middle, I think we have to at least tell the
Yeah, I'm happy to tag the maintainers of the distributions that are on the 1.10 tracking list,
Okay.
So what is the problem of Kubeflow Discuss? I still don't
Because
understand.
no, it's just that we will get literally no responses, and it's pointless spam.
So who is going to hear them if we just send them?
Because we can just literally at the people who are listed as the maintainers in the 1.10 tracking issue.
No, but what is the problem to just send this message to Kubeflow Discuss?
Because what the heck are we even asking them?
No, to take a look at this PR if it is
Oh
important.
my
for
god, that's just going to cause people to. If anyone does look at it, it's just going to cause people to start complaining about how hard Kubeflow is to install.
All right. Anyway, I still think we need +1 from distributions. If
I
they're
don't think
not
we need
active,
a
we
plus
should-
one. I think we just need a veto negative. Like,
Yeah, we've done a lazy consensus on this, Andre, just because.
But just why we don't remove everyone then from this page if they're not really response to
no,
any
because
messages?
there's no if they don't care, no one can. Very few people can speak on behalf of such large organizations.
So let's remove them if they're not really active.
No, because if we
Well,
remove them,
I think you're going to an extreme there, Andre, a little bit. It's just we have gone through a couple different maturations on this. I mean, there's
Yeah.
started with skulls and things, and then we changed language, and sometimes people won't get involved at the very end, right? And I think we're at I think we're at the very end now.
It is also just an improvement. Like it does help users vary a lot. I mean, we can also talk about removing specific distributions in the future, but I really want to highlight that things are out of date before we do that, because otherwise people will never know.
You have a good point, Andre. And I think Matthew's right that perhaps it's a that there is a methodical approach to it, right? First you get tagged as being behind and then you get kicked off. Anyway, we're 20 minutes over.
And so my other proposal for the next thing I want to change is just something that only affects me in Canonical. And then once I can confirm that they agree, then I think it's fine. Is just to reword the words all certified distributions to the words multiple, because it's just confusing for people. And then link. So if you click on that one, just to see what I'm showing, it's like very, very small. I just wanted to highlight this so that it's in people's minds. It's very basic, literally 2-word change. Anything about this page always gets fought over, I know. But so that's the old, which is based off the current PR. And then changing it to multiple with a list. And so I'm waiting for Canonical to come back with their list. But because the word all certified sounds to a lot of end users, I've asked them, like it's talking ones that Kubeflow itself has certified, which is not obviously the case.
Yeah, if Canonical is okay with that, I guess. I mean, I personally would I would put the names of the ones that you support, the big ones, the big three, plus others, you know.
There's
But
about 15 big ones that DeployKF supports.
I would put the big ones up there if I were you, but that's
It's just going to look ridiculous if we do. I think multiple is more obvious to the end user, and then just with a list linked to the list.
Yeah.
The only issue is that, again, Canonical doesn't have an explicit list like DeployKF does, but they will create a list if we do this, right? And that's kind of why we do these changes, Andre. It's to force people to do things that are in the interest of the community.
I mean, okay.
In the same way that people didn't have release notes before this, and they didn't have a website before we did this.
I think if we want to do it in terms of the interest of the community, we should ask community for the feedback instead of just doing it silently on the call.
Complicated
And this,
problem.
our opinion is a good for the community, right?
Maybe, I think it's similar to a democracy, right? Very few direct democracies exist in the world. Most democracies are representative, and the way people, in my mind, ask for us to be their representatives is by using the software, and also in voting in the elections if they're a maintainer. But like, sometimes, in the same way that I don't have an opinion on really complicated tax policy, because I'm not an expert in that, we vote for the people who we think will respect our interests. And in this case, we are the maintainers, right? And therefore, as long as we can agree, I think it's fine, you know?
I don't think we should enforce how people use Kubeflow, right? And tell them. I mean, the problem is like, because we don't understand, you know, like them better, like we cannot make a decision until we get a lot of opinions from the users and from.
So you can represent your users, I represent mine, and everyone else represents theirs. That's kind of how we act as maintainers, right? Like that's what I'm saying. Like your statement there is absolutely why the page is as it is right now, which is both options are available. And it's only that way because you are here. And that's good. But end users would never have come to this conclusion because they're not involved day to day in the development of the software. Like that's not like, but as long as we have a diverse set of interests represented in the maintainers, then I think it should be fine. If we just defer to the maintainer consensus.
Yeah, anyway, I just think we need to be more open and we need to be aligned. You know, we need to make sure, like, you know, some folks maybe don't follow these calls. And if we make some important decision for the community, we should, you know, use different resources, right? To not silently make changes on behalf of contributors/users. Because I have a lot of contributors who are never attending these calls. And we should, you know, appreciate their time and money they invested in Kubeflow.
Yeah, I agree with all that. On this particular change, which it's only 2 distributions, I think if they both +1 this, I think it's okay. That's my kind of take on this. I don't see where multiple causes any agita for end users if this is how the distributions want to present themselves. I'm
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. I mean, and in this particular case, it only affects two. It's just because end users are getting confused. That's the reason. Like, I did a bunch of questions on people, and they're like, "I have no idea what that series of words means." All certified distributions, you know.
So I get your point, Andre. I just think on this one, it's a minor change. And if these guys if Canonical and Deploy KF want to do this, then, and they think it's clear,
Yep.
we're,
If
we're
someone,
way over. Hopefully, look, I hope, we can make sure that this, dissension between us is not something that goes out into the community and stuff like that. We definitely have to find middle ground faster going forward, right? And I don't know how we do that, but we're recording our dirty laundry a bit.
things taking time, Josh, is actually good. Like, moving too quickly on these sort of issues is how you destroy a project. Like, I like the pushback. It's good that certain pages that actually matter have a lot of pushback. That's good. And things taking time is fine. Sometimes we do take way too long because it can be hard to connect with the right people. And I think that's the thing we should take away. Not that we should do it faster necessarily, but that we should have better communication channels with people who are stakeholders in each particular decision. So for components, we already have working groups. But for distributions, I would love to have kind of a committee or something like a place where the distributions are forced to meet once a month or something, in some sense.
I think that's a fair request, and we should probably take that under advisement because it'll unblock some of these issues, and the people that want to be involved will show up.
Yeah, we're over time. I know that Tarek also has one question. Tarek, can we discuss this next Tuesday if you're available?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sorry if it's time has changed in Sweden, so I joined late. Sorry for that.
Tarek,
But yeah.
you speak up earlier. Just don't worry about blocking into us. And we're 20 minutes over, and you've been waiting. Don't wait, man. I'm from a big family. You're not going to hurt my feelings.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
All right.
So yeah,
I'm going. I'm
cool.
seeing you guys. I'll see you
Awesome.
next week. Yeah. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.